Yes, welcome back again. And today we are here with a new episode on how to achieve eloquency in the deliverance of speech. Right? Generally, if a person who wants to become a good speaker is always seeking to attain this eloquency, and eloquency, as you already know, that you have to be with means when you achieve an eloquency, then you are actually being fluent in whatever you say, and that do with clarity, right? So this is every speaker's dream to be able to deliver the speech with great eloquency. But at the same times, the speaker is supposed to maintain the integrity of the person, his message, and uh, and deliver that speech with the perfect effectiveness, so that he can connect with the audience and he can put his message across. So this is what we're going to discuss today, and I want you to start the show, and I want you to uh, just let people know what this eloquency is all about and how can a person uh, achieve it. And we'll be discussing more about it. So start. Over to you.
Okay, a very good evening, first of all. And my name is Robin. Just a short introductions to all those new viewers who are watching this video, or who will possibly watch this video. So today's session is entirely based upon how to be an effective speaker, right? So when we talk
Yes.
about efficacy to be brought up in, especially in our communication skills, so what are those important parameters that we have to be very careful about? And what are those important steps that one has to take bit by bit in order to build up the communication skills? So the first thing which comes, as you rightly said, that is eloquency and eloquent. I mean, this word is very prominent, or you can say it's very popular, it's very famous. It's often used as a terminology, as a concept by many of the greatest speaker. I mean, right now. So when we talk about what eloquency means, we have to be very careful about this word, because some people have a misunderstanding about this word, because they only limit its meaning to be precise. But it's okay. It's all about being precise, but it also includes some more cardinals. It is not just confined to be being precise. It is one of among those other cardinals which actually gives a complete picture of eloquency. So eloquency is basically something when we speak. I mean, if you go to the root part of this word, trying to understand as to from where the word eloquence is driven or drive, then you will find there is a word called loqui, which itself means to speak, to say something. Now, it doesn't give a clear picture, the wholesome picture, because many people might find it to speak or to say something, which also includes anything, riff-raff, right? But it goes beyond that in literal sense. So how it goes beyond that, that when you say and when we say being eloquent, we actually try to infer that very idea, that how we can be more precise, means being terse, as well as how to be more effective in all possible ways for achieving only one objective, as to put across the point that we have in our mind, a very opinion that we want to share with the people. So there are few cardinals which I want to share with you, which actually makes this eloquence a word eloquence. The first is being terse. Being terse means to be very specified and to be very limited with the words. Have you ever heard about the term or the word called pruning? Many people know about it. You also possibly know about it, pruning. I mean, pruning is something where a gardener
Yes.
in a
Trimming,
garden,
trimming something.
yes, yes, cuts that very rambling branches of a tree, which sounds weird and which appears to be weird completely, and which gives a very peculiar and a strange picture and appearance of a particular tree in the entire garden, right? So it completely, tarnishes the very beauty of the garden. So what this gardener does, he comes and starts pruning those redundancies, or those kinds of rambling branches which has completely is completely formless, right? In the same way, Eloquency is all about to prune our own personal speaking, especially when we communicate with the people. And this is possibly achieved through a very regular and a routine practice. It's not possible to gain this very practice overnight. It takes immense, learning sessions, as well as to be well versed about the nitty gritty of the communication skills. So only a good speaker or a good master speaker can really help people who are enrolled in this communication skill program to help them to achieve this level, right? So
Yes.
eloquency simply means to be precise and terse, and to go on to that extent where you only use those words which is sufficient and adequate to comprehensively put across your point. So the third part which you can include in being eloquent is to be terse. Second, to be effective in communication skill. And the third, to be very well appropriate and pertinent in picking up those vocabularies. We have number of vocabularies around us. Moreover, what makes this vocabulary is very difficult, especially to approach when you have this communications to hold with some people, that we have tens of vocabularies representing and projecting and delivering almost a similar meaning. But when you are eloquent and when you practice eloquency, you have to be very selective in picking up the right vocab, using the right construction of the sentence to make your communications more effective. So, therefore, this eloquence includes several other cardinals. So, therefore, I always say that people should not be confused and should not translate this eloquency means to be only specific and precise only in words and speaking. Last but not the least, eloquency also includes your overall conduction of speaking, which actually goes beyond your communication skills, which is an outer dimension of your communication skill. What is this outer dimension of your communication skill? For example, a speaker, when joins a particular stage and address a large number of audience, so it is basically recommended that every 15 minutes, 5 minutes of speaking must be divided into two segments. 10 minutes should be only for the speaker himself, and the 5 minutes for the overall engagement with the audience. And that makes a complete and a compact kind of eloquent speaking. So these are the other dimensions which people don't include in the eloquent speaking. So I hope you will understand what I'm trying to say, and I hope the viewers will understand what exactly eloquence means. Right? Over to
Yes.
you.
Yes, this is in a very nicely said that we should be engaging the people in whatever we are trying to say. Otherwise, if we are not actually engaging them, they'll be somewhere else, right? They will have lost, whatever they're listening to, and they'll have, reached somewhere else if they're not, keeping engaged. And this kind of interaction is really needed if you are talking, if you're delivering a message, if you are putting across whatever you think is going to be beneficial for the listeners, right? And I've also experienced this personally because whenever I hold some sessions, I find that some people are losing their interest and they are getting bored, or they have reached somewhere else mentally. Then they are needed to be kept engaged with some activities, right? We can ask some questions. We can have some kind of activity which can keep them engaged at the same time, which can also give them some lessons, right? My next question for you is to yes, tell me the importance of how important it is to keep the clarity of thoughts, because you cannot just go on, you cannot ramble on about anything, right? You have to keep your message to what means you have to keep yourself to the message which you are trying to trying to put across. And if you are just going on about speaking which is not at all relevant, then people will be taking their attention off, right? So it is important for you to, for a person who's actually delivering a speech in front of a good gathering, to keep himself or herself uh, relevant, right? So how can a person organize their thoughts? Because organization of thoughts is also very much important. If I have thoughts but I don't know how to organize them, there has to be
Right.
proper sequence, right? And if they're not, they're not put in a sequence, then they will lose the importance. They'll not be able to
Right.
engage the audience, and the message which a person is trying to put across is going to be no, ineffective. So you just tell me, how can a speaker keep themselves organized in terms of thoughts, and how important it is to have the clarity of thoughts? Over to you.
First of all, I would like to say you thank you for not involving this clarity of thought as an aspect of being fluent or being eloquent in speaking. However, it's one of those parts of eloquencies. But since this very aspect of clarity of thought is itself very vast and itself a very, a very deep concept, especially when we try to understand it in order to grasp much about it, then for that, I think this is what you did good, is that you put it separately and divorced it from the very word eloquence so that we could have a much bigger insight on this particular point, right? So
Yes.
you are talking about, clarity of thought, and I also believe in that clarity of thought is something which is the soul of your communication skill. I mean, a life, a body cannot survive without conscious. Even when a person is in coma, as long as he is not able to react psychologically and due to some hazardous impact on the body, due to some psychological shock, then it is also said that the person is dead alive. Means he
Yes.
is alive, but just because of his consciously not active, he is supposed to be dead. In the same way, when we communicate and uses any language, regardless of its particular cultural, root, or regardless of its particular position that it enjoys globally, these languages have only one common aspect and one common point, is that clarity of thought. As long as, so long as you and me and anyone could sustain this clarity of thought throughout our communication skills, our 70% of the journey, which involves in a burdensome responsibility on us as to how we could be able to put across to comprehensively and being congent, especially about delivering a message to the people, this could be easily solved by this. So thereafter comes the second question. Since clarity of thought is very important aspect of communication skills, then how we could achieve this very, very point, very idea of, or very concept of clarity of thought. Every session of speaking, may it be a public speaking, may it be a discussion going on a roundtable conference, may it be a regular parlance that happens usually, or it would be a professional, communications happening at the global level. All are with one particular objective. All are with one particular topic, which you call, which you can call a topic, which you can call a point of discussion, a bone of contention. You can call anything, but the fact remains is that all it requires is the clarity of thought for the exact delivery of that point. Otherwise, the entire meeting, for the purpose of it was being held, would be completely failed, right? So, therefore, clarity of thought is very important. Now, how we could achieve it? I mean, this is really ridiculous sometimes, just because of we have number of advertisements and the way these platforms are giving immense scope for all those new speakers, those who call themselves master speakers, and they give them false promises to the new, you know, I mean, communicators who would really want to achieve something in this communication field, that they can gain a good, communications, especially within 10 days, 15 days. I simply say all of them that it is not possible. It is impossible, right? So therefore, we need to understand that when we talk about clarity of thought, it is a gradual process. And what is interesting part of this process is that there is no no stage as a perfection to be achieved. So you are always a learner. So what this clarity of thought and how we could achieve it, let's talk about it for 1 or 2 minutes and then I'll come to you. Clarity of thought involves only your personal status pertaining to your idea, pertaining to your overall hold over that particular topic that you are going to deliver. It means that how much you are well aware of the topic is what helps us to determine your clarity of thought or our clarity of thought. As long as you are not, as long as you are not self-aware of your own personal topic that you are going to put across, what you are going to share with the people, it is impossible to have a positive feedback from the audience. Therefore, it is said that people whosoever is willing to address the large audience on a particular theme, the theme must be well imbibed in the mind of the speaker. And if it is not, then there is a possibility for sure that the person might go blank, or maybe he can go to catch some ambiguities in the entire conversation. And where the ambiguity arises, makes a overall conversation and engagement convoluted, kind of torture speaking, then in that case ultimately the entire session goes failed. So therefore I always try to say and make people know the reality and the very exacting need as to how we could grab this very clarity of thought. So first, to be well aware of the topic, whatever it is at your hands that you are going to present in a large audience or wherever for whatever the purpose. Second, you should be able to know the nitty gritties of it. Now, the one thing which is very helpful, perhaps to build up this clarity of thought, is that whenever we come across with a new concept, while reading a new book on a different terminology or discipline, then try to learn it with a specific example of a
Yes.
particular situation.
Yes.
I mean, this is very helpful throughout my law graduation. I learned this, and I was very, thankful or grateful to whatever I can say to all these law books, that those difficult and most technical language which you can ever expect, that is there in the law books. And sometimes this is very much complicated and intricated for a common person, a beginner, to understand it. But what is more special about it, that every particular clause of the article is actually provided with some kind of, or is associated with some kind of example that
Yes.
is actually goes in the line of the context, and that helps us to understand the entire situation. So therefore, a person who wants to bring some clarity of thought needs to focus on these three things: to be well aware of, self-aware of the topic; second, to be very much clear; and the third is that to be preparing with the example in the
Yes.
same line, so that once you put your idea, and then to support that idea you present an example, it actually makes your entire conversation so understandable and feasible, especially to those new beginners and the beginners and those who have just enrolled in the communication skills. Over to you.
Yes, really, I've also now felt it, and I've also now put this, entire, process into practice. When I started, my journey as a speaker, when I started my journey as a teacher, I learned, these things the way you've just said, because I know if I have to explain somebody a word, because I'm a language teacher, so I need to be very much, um, cautious about the kind of words I'm using, and I must know what the word means. Otherwise, I cannot use any word anywhere. I must know the situation where the word can fit into the context, right? So if I don't know the definition of the word, if I don't know the situation where the word can be used, I cannot actually use that word. And if I'm not sure about it, then I should never be using that. So simply put, if a person or a speaker wants to deliver something, they have to be very much clear and they have to be very much aware of the topic they're going to deliver, and they have to go for extensive reading, of that particular topic, and they have to experience all those situations which can help him or her understand the topic very well. Because understanding the topic is really important. If we don't understand the topic, we cannot actually become clear about it. So
Right.
we have to go for regular reading exercise. We have to uh, go with the examples, as you said, because I never ever learn any word without an example. Because I know
Right.
if I don't know the particular context in which the word can be used, I can know the word, but I can never use it. If I
Right.
use it, then it will be wrong, and I'll be using that incorrectly. So it's important to have the knowledge. It's important to have the experience of doing that particular thing. Second thing is clarity of thoughts doesn't happen overnight. You have to go. You have to practice as many times as you can, and that's why we see that those who the speakers, especially now those who say that they can teach you, they can teach you how to become perfect speaker, how to become a good speaker in a matter of days. They are actually exaggerating this thing, because this is not actually that easy. If it was so easy, I think we would have seen these people mushrooming in the country, right? So why very few people are there, who are good speakers, right? So
Right.
it's not really possible for a person to become a good speaker in a matter of days, in a matter of
Right.
months, in a matter of years. It's a journey. You will keep bettering yourself. You keep
Right.
improving yourself, but you can never say that you are not perfect, because somewhere in this world somebody is better than you, right? So clarity of thought comes with regular practice. Clarity of thoughts comes with your investing a lot of your time into this particular art, right?
Right.
Or craft, you can say. My next question for you is to tell me what's the importance of vocabulary in language when it comes to being eloquent in the delivery of your speech. And do you think the rich vocabulary is going to help you put your message across, or the use of simple words and simplicity in the language is more effective than complicated one? Yes, over to you.
Okay. A nice question, by the way. Uh, I have a mixed, responses to this very question, because I cannot take one extreme position. But I can simply say one thing here is that it entirely depends upon the circumstances that you are in and the kind of public that you are addressing. So, not every time you expect that your listeners to be only dependent upon you. Some listeners are heavily intellectual and highbrows, and their requirements and their hunger is also much comparatively larger, comparatively more intensified than the commoners. And therefore, when you speak with your routine way of speaking, it makes your speaking unobtrusive, so it somewhere disenchants all these speakers and all these viewers to even listen to you. So they always require that the speaker must not be just knowledgeable and informative, but at the same time they also be very well effective and advanced speaker. So therefore we have to understand this very and response to these questions, uh, considering two different gatherings that we are going to address as a speaker. Now, one thing will always be there as a common factor, which has to be, a permanent or a cardinal part of this. That whenever we address a public which is completely, I won't use the word subordinate, but I would rather say they are almost like a disciples. They are almost like a students, and therefore their entire reliance upon you, upon us as a speaker. So there you have to be very simple in your communication skills. You have to be very, you know, powerful in terms of your delivery or deliverance of your thought, rather than to be more focused on how you are delivering. Because when we think about how we have to deliver our overall, part or the content, especially when we have a large audience and that too very educated, then in that particular way we have to be very smart enough, right? So the two things which I want to recommend, since your question was what is the importance of vocab, and we will start with this and will respond to the next part of this. The significance of vocabulary in your speaking, in your writing, can never be dwindled, can never be held insignificant. It is always substantial in all ways. Let's take an example of a big, prodigious house building, which is constructed in a very sprawling area, like a magnificent building. Can we expect this very building to be constructed with less number of bricks? It is impossible. So we have to consider these bricks as vocabs. As long as you have number of bricks, you will always be very confident to articulate your meaning, to comprehensively put your point. Moreover, you will be very calm throughout the session, throughout your communication skills, because you know you have the way, the power to manipulate things up. These vocabulary helps us to manipulate with the situation. And this is therefore many good speakers always put much emphasis on the vocabulary. I mean, if you ask this question to any particular prominent speaker who gains much publicity and has done many seminars in his entire life, then in his views, you will find that every particular vocab is itself a concept. It is not just a vocab, it is a concept. So whenever these speakers start using some vocabs, they go on to explaining first vocab and then come to the point. It makes the entire conversation so effective and so engaging that actually it never ruptures, especially the conversation at any point. Ultimately, it keeps binding all those kinds of, the binding between, between the speakers and the uh, audience. So therefore, vocabulary plays a very significant role. Now, how we can achieve the vocabulary is the next question possibly. Now, we can achieve this vocabulary in a more systematic way, in a more systematic, you know, uh, process, through a systematic process. I mean, many students, I don't know who tell them to learn vocab randomly and learn it right from its Hindi translation. First of all, this is an utmost need for all of us as speakers to let the audience, to let the you know beginners know that translation is not at all a criteria, is not at all a ground, or is not at all a point where a person could expect himself or herself to be a good communicator. Some people go to that extent where they speed up their translating habit, that in nanoseconds they translate their Hindi or into English, but it reflects the way they speak. I mean, if they communicate with any foreigner, the foreigner will automatically understand that he or she is translating. But it's okay as long as the communication is being held. Moreover, if it is leading to some point and making, effective, then it's okay. But it cannot be sustainable in all possible scenarios. So for a good speaker, this translation or translating habit must be reduced. I don't say that it should be completely exterminated as invalid practice within the process of communication learning. I only say that the use of the translation as a procedure, as a technique, must be reduced. And it could only be possible when we understand vocab. For, let's say, a person is learning English language. So the word or the vocab associating with English language must be understood through the picture, in a sense that should be understood through a particular environment and the milieu, which actually details about and which actually explores much about the vocabs and its possible placement in that particular context, rather than a specific meaning in Hindi language. When we learn vocab into Hindi language, we try to translate it every single time, and that actually somewhere obstructs or precludes us from speaking. So somewhere it snatches us something which you call a fluency, right? So I always try to put much emphasis on learning vocabs, but only in the context of a particular kind of environment, as to in how many ways it could be used, rather than to go with a specific meaning of that vocab. Because when you learn one vocab, it could be used in multiple situations, so it increases the efficacies multifold. Because English is a language which is not technically very robust, technically very strong, to be very honest, comparing to Sanskrit language, comparing to Devanagari, because every single vocab in English language can be used, one single word can be used for different scenarios, for different circumstances in different ways. Only one. It is not possible in Sanskrit language. So therefore, it always needs a speaker to be more expressive, and this expression could be developed only when you know all possibilities and all possible scopes of its possible placement of a particular vocab. And then you will be able to a very strong holder of vocabs, and to be able to place it nicely, confidently. Over to you.
Yes, nice. Really, the vocabulary plays a vital role in putting a message across to the people you're speaking to, because words have power, as you know, and if you don't know uh, the words, then it's quite impossible for you to let people know what you're trying to say. One more
Right.
thing that because you know that. Uh, if you are so much if you've got enriched vocabulary, then you've got so many, you can say your expressions are easy because you are not groping for the words, and you know what effective words you can go for. And speakers generally go for the words which are very effective because they can arouse people's emotions, right? And this is what they are working on. They are actually arousing people's emotions, so that they have all the powers, that all the I would say possibilities. They've got all the potential, but they are finding it difficult to bring that up. And speakers do one thing, and that is they just help people know the possibilities, know the potential, and know their powers. And for this, they use the power of words, because
Right.
words have got all the power, right? When words are used in the right way, they can be the prayers, they can be mantras, they can be phrases, and
Right.
they can be, you can say, compliments. But if they're chosen wrongly, they can become curse, they can become abuse, they can become anything you might think of. So the rule of vocabulary is really very important, because this can help you and understand it. They can help put your message across, and at the same time they can help people understand what other person is trying to say, right?
Right.
So one more thing, a speaker has to do is to identify the level of their audience, because once they are done with this, once they are able to gauge the people's level, then they can start using the words accordingly. And whenever I speak, because right now we are speaking on a platform, so we are we actually we keep our words as simple as possible, because we don't want to confuse people with
Yeah.
the vocabulary, and with the complicated, I would
Right.
say, complicated words and complicated structures. So our message, our means our job is to put the message across and let people know what we are focusing on. But well, I teach my students, especially language, then I use many different words, because there my goal is different. My goal is different to teach people uh, what kind of words they can go for and how they can use the words. But here our goal is different. So we need to understand the level of the audience. At the same time, we need to understand what we are doing actually. Here we've got so many different people. Right, we are not actually speaking according to the level of the people. We are speaking because we want to give some message to the people, and we want to keep it simple, right?
Right.
So here is the role. Means here comes the role of vocabulary and the language. So as long as you keep the vocabulary and language as simple as you can, it is easy for people to capture. It is easy for people to get what your message is. right?
Right.
So yes, you rightly said that we should be very much aware of the kind of words and the kind of vocabulary we are using, and we should also know the uh, placement of those vocabularies, right? Otherwise, a speaker will cease to be very effective if they are not aware of this fact,
Right.
uh, that the words are really important, right? So
Right.
these are the things we have discussed right now, and because I've got one more session to come, so we'll be discussing the rest of the questions we are going to discuss with the people, and especially for the people in the next episode. And next episode will be on this. Today is Friday, right?
Sure.
So no, today's Wednesday. So we'll have this on Sunday, and then on Wednesday. So
Sure.
we'll have 2 shows in 1 week, because I want that there has to be, we need to increase the frequency of these episodes, because people keep waiting for the session, next installment. So we cannot make them wait. We have to,
Sure.
we don't have to keep them waiting. We have to uh, you know create as many episodes as we can. So right now we are going to have 2 episodes in a week,
Sure.
and then we'll be just means multiplying. If not multiplying, then we'll be adding one,
Sure.
then one, and then one, right? So for the timing, I'm taking a leave, but we'll come up with more interesting questions which can help people understand how they can become eloquent in terms of delivering their speech. So
Okay.
right, so we'll be meeting again with the interesting conversation. Till then, I'm taking a leave.
Take care. Good night. Bye bye.